6 p.m. here in Cairo. Time for the news bulletin. We started with the headlines. Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli inspects a number of development and service projects in Minya Governorate. Foreign Minister Abdulati holds intensive calls on regional development and de-escalation. Egypt presides over African Union Peace and Security Council. Welcome back. The news in detail. Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli inspected on Saturday a number of development and service projects in Minya Governorate. The Prime Minister said the inspection tour aims to monitor implementation progress and remove obstacles and accelerate project delivery and better service for residents, stressing that all stops on the tour are aligned with citizens' needs, particularly projects completed or underway as part of the Decent Life initiative. The Premier also said the visit focuses on reviewing projects related to healthcare, utilities, development and road upgrades, in addition to inspecting factories across different sectors. The tour also includes handing over contracts to beneficiaries of a new housing project and reviewing several initiatives under the Presidential Decent Life program to develop rural villages. Yوليو was accompanied by Deputy Prime Minister for Industrial Development and Minister of Industry and Transport Kamel El-Wazir, Minister of Higher Education and Scientific Research Mohammed Ayman Ashur, Minya Governor Ahmed Kidwani, as well as a host of senior state officials. Well, Minister of Foreign Affairs Badr Abdulati stressed the necessity to intensify efforts aimed to de-escalate and finding peaceful solutions through diplomacy and dialogue that contribute to reducing tension in the region. This came during an intensive calls Foreign Minister Abdulati held with foreign ministers of Iran, Qatar, Turkey, Oman, and the U.S. Special Envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff. Abdulati emphasized the importance of preventing the region from sliding into a state of insecurity and instability. He also affirmed the necessity of continuing constructive interaction and communication among the concerned parties in a way that contributes to bringing the U.S. and Iran back to negotiating table and reaching a peaceful settlement based on mutual respect and common benefit for all parties. Minister of Foreign Affairs Badr Abdulati expressed Egypt's appreciation to Angola's role during its current presidency to the African Union. The foreign minister remarks came during a phone call with Angolan counterpart Tete Antonio. During the call, Abdulati asserted the necessity of coordination for the African Union Ordinary Summit of Heads of State and Government is scheduled to take place on February in Addis Ababa to ensure an outcome results that supports the African continent in fields of peace, security and development, especially under the presidency of Egypt to the African Union Peace and Security Council in February 2026. Egypt presided over the African Union Peace and Security Council on the 1st of February 2026 for a period of 1 month. Egyptian chairmanship comes at a critical time marked by increasing security, political, developmental and challenges on African continent. Egyptian chairmanship aims to enhance the effectiveness of the Peace and Security Council as its primary body concerned with maintaining stability and establishing security on the African continent. It will be keen to embody the established constants and principles in the consecutive act of the African Union. Egypt strongly condemned the repeated Israeli violations of ceasefire in Gaza Strip, which leads to a number of martyrs and injuries, further inflaming the situation and undermining efforts to cement the truce and restore stability at a time where regional and international parties are working together to ensure the success of the second phase of U.S. President Donald Trump's plan. In a statement for the Foreign Ministry, Egypt affirmed that the repeated violations represent a direct threat to the political process and obstruct efforts to create a suitable environment for a transition to a more stable phase in Gaza. Egypt also called all parties to fully commit to the responsibilities at this critical phase and exercise maximum restraint in order to maintain ceasefire and avoid any actions that could undermine the existing process and create suitable conditions for moving forward towards the start of the early recovery phase and the reconstruction process. Health Ministry in Gaza said Israeli occupation forces have killed 30 people in a strip on Saturday, one of the biggest and highest tolls since the October ceasefire aimed at stopping the fighting. Masoud Pezeshkian said on Saturday that U.S., Israeli and European leaders had exploited Iran's economic problems, incited unrest and provided people with means of tear the nation apart in recent protests. The two-week-long nationwide protests, which began in late December over an economic crisis marked by soaring inflation and rising living costs, have abated after a bloody crackdown by the Syrian authorities. The US-based rights group Harmana says killed 6,563, including 6,170 protesters and 214 security forces. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said that 3,100, including 2,000 security forces, have been killed. Pezeshkian said in a live state television broadcasting that the US, Israeli and European leaders tried to provoke, create division and supplied resources, drawing some innocent people into this movement. Iranian Army Chief Amir Khatami have on Saturday warned the United States and Israel against an attack, saying his country's forces were on high alert following Washington's heavy military deployments in the Gulf. He also insisted that Iran's nuclear expertise could not be eliminated after Trump said he expected Tehran to seek a deal to avoid U.S. strikes. Iranian Army Chief said that if the enemy makes a mistake without a double, it will endanger its own security, the security of the region, and the security of the Zionist regime. He also noted that Iran's armed forces were at full defensive and military readiness. The Kremlin said Russian President Vladimir Putin met the head of Iran's top security body in Moscow as Donald Trump sought to force Tehran to make deal on its nuclear program. The Kremlin said in a statement on its website that the head of state have received in the Kremlin the Secretary of the Supreme National Security Council of Iran, Ali Larijani, who is visiting Russia. Trump also renewed his threat to launch strikes against Iran, which recently imposed a crackdown on protesters that observers said killed thousands. Iran's Moscow embassy posted on social media that Friday's talks between Putin and Larijani have focused on economic ties and important regional and international issues without elaborating further. Moscow have offered to mediate between Washington and Tehran. Russian Defense Ministry said its troops have captured the villages of Petrivka and Toretsk in Ukraine. Meanwhile, Kyiv's metro system have temporarily closed due to the power shortages amid recent Russian attacks on Ukraine energy infrastructure.
Russian Defense Ministry said troops captured in the villages of Petrivka and Ukraine's southern Zaporizhzhia region and Torsk in eastern Donetsk region. In another development, Kyiv's metro system temporarily closed on Saturday due to power shortages amid recent Russian attacks on Ukrainian energy infrastructure. The Kiev metro is a vital transport artery for the capital and rarely pauses operations even during intense Russian bombardment. Around 800,000 passengers use the system daily. Many of them rely on the commute to work. Residents also use its 552 stations as bomb shelters during Russian attacks. Kiev Metro said that due to a power outage from external power supply centers, train services and escalator operation have been temporarily suspended in the metro. He added that the system will serve as a shelter until power measures and resumes. Russia has hit Ukrainian energy infrastructure throughout its nearly 4-year invasion, but Kiev says this winter has been the toughest yet, as attacks cut power and heating of 2 millions during the sub-zero temperatures.
At least 10 security officials and 37 gunmen were killed as Baloch separatists have launched coordinated attacks across Pakistan, Balochistan province on Saturday. Pakistan have been battling separatist attacks in Balochistan for decades, where gunmen target state forces, foreign nations and non-locals in mineral-rich southwestern province bordering Afghanistan and Iran. Separatists have also abducted the Deputy Commissioner of Nushki district. The Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif have praised the security forces for filing coordinated attacks in 12 locations. Mobile phone services have been jammed and traffic disrupted in the affected districts, while train services have been suspended across the province. The Baloch Liberation Army, the most active separatist group in the province, have claimed responsibility for the attacks. Now with the economy news, as the U.S. government entered what is expected to be a brief shutdown on Saturday after Congress have failed to approve a deal to keep a wide swath of operations funded ahead of midnight deadline. After hours of delay in past the spending package by a vote of 71 to 29. However, the House of Representatives is out of town and not expected to take up the measure until Monday. Lawmakers from both parties have been working to ensure a debate over immigration enforcement does not disrupt other government operations. This is a marked contrast from last fall, when Republicans and Democrats dug into their positions in a dispute over health care, promoting a shutdown that lasted a record of 43 days and cost the U.S. economy an estimated $11 billion. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer have wrapped up a 4-day trip to China on Saturday after his bid to forge closer ties prompted warnings from U.S. President Donald Trump. During the visit, he signed a series of agreements with Downing Street, announcing Beijing had agreed to visa-free travel to British citizens visiting China. Later on Saturday, Starmer will arrive in Tokyo for a meeting with Japanese counterpart. Starmer's visit was the first to China, a British Prime Minister, in 8 years.